Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. Here we talk hardcovers, comic books, manga, and movie reviews. So if you like that kind of stuff, stick around. You might find something you like. Today we're gonna be covering volume 2 in a trilogy. This is called Beyond Wonderland. We're gonna be covering the 6-issue story arc. It's written by Gregory and art by Leister. So the last volume ended where Carol needed to make a sacrifice, so she threw her brother through this mirror that sends you to another world, being Wonderland. And then she kind of tried to escape her home, left with her boyfriend, and she ended up getting pregnant. So that's where volume 1 ended. Here we start on volume 2. Carol is having a nightmare, and she's seen her brother, like what has become of him in Wonderland, right? So she's having nightmares about it, and he's here saying, oh, you know, I hate you. And she's like, Johnny, I had no choice. I had to send somebody through there, and the cops were already looking for you because you had murdered our dad. So this way you can escape that, and at the same time you become the sacrifice, right? So it's like killing two birds with one stone. And he say, no, I hate you. And as you see him speaking to her, he says, I'm
coming for you, Calie.
And behind Calie, you see this creature. So they're both speaking at the same time, the creature and Johnny. At this point, Johnny seems to have become the Mad Hatter because he has the hat right there. And I guess this creature's kind of like controlling what he says, or it is him, right? She wakes up from this nightmare and she's saying right here,
it's the same dream. It's always the same dream. Johnny, trapped in that place, trapped in Wonderland, trapped with that thing, trapped because of me, because I sent him there in my place.
Now the story starts. Issue 1. There's a big overhead view of the city. She has clearly moved somewhere else, and here in the narration box it says, once upon a time, my name was Calie Liddle. I've changed it since then. She's working at this burger spot, diner in New York. Here's her boss, seems to be a nice guy named Rennie. He tells her, you've been working a lot of overtime, a lot of hours. I know you're pregnant. Maybe you should take some time off or take it a little easy, you know? And she likes working the overtime because it keeps her occupied, it keeps her mind busy, so she's not just stressing out about this Wonderland situation and these nightmares she's having. As she's working, we see a guy in the diner writing a suicide note saying,
oh dear Calie, I can't handle this anymore. I'm sorry, I have to leave you.
And this suicide note, she has a boyfriend, and this is the Mad Hatter. As we see right here, he has the hat on and he's writing a suicide note for the boyfriend. So I guess he's planning to probably kill the boyfriend and leave this note to make it look like he just killed himself. Here you see Calie talking to her boyfriend over the phone, and they're clearly arguing, they're having issues, and he figures this is the perfect time to leave this note because it would be believable they're just having a big fight. She hangs up and he sees opportunity. Once they both get home, the arguing continues, and he's kind of telling her, you know,
I'm sick of all these problems, you have these mental issues. I stood by your side so long. But you constantly keep thinking people are after you, people are listening on your calls, and they're following you.
And she tells him,
I don't know, my brother disappeared, my dad got killed, my mom got killed. Clearly someone is after us.
She explains to him what she thinks about this Wonderland place, and he thinks she's crazy and she probably should see a psychiatrist. And there's a lot of dialogue here. You start kind of seeing she's talking about, if I was him, I'd probably think I was crazy too. It's a lot to digest, you know, but she knows that she's not going crazy, that this is all really happening and people are after her. That's why she changed her name, dyed her hair, got a new identity, moved, and he's gone along with all this stuff up to this point, but it's taking its tone and he's kind of getting tired of it. She goes to sleep and has another one of her nightmares. This one is her mom. Her mom suicided herself, hanging herself in volume 1. Return to Wonderland, and here you see her mom hang and she's having a nightmare about it. But in this situation, the mom changes. You see her neck and face change into this creature that's possessing her brother Johnny over at Wonderland at this point. And he tells her, wake up. And you see her transform into this creature, and she wakes up screaming. Again, another terrible nightmare. And he's like, you're having another episode. her boyfriend tells her, and she tries to kind of fix it by bringing him into the shower with her, and they have an intimate moment, and it's escapism to forget about that, but that's momentarily, right? As soon as they're done, the problems are still gonna be there. After the fight, she thinks to herself,
there's a silence between us now, something that was never there before. She says, I love you, Brandon, I really do.
Brandon says,
Yeah, I know.
so she's really thinking things over, the fear of maybe losing him. And in the narration here, she says,
It wasn't until tonight that I realized how much I need him in my life. Right now, he's all I got, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep him in my life.
Brandon is the only one dealing with all her issues and all her nagging, and the only one that deals with her stories about Wonderland and her paranoia. But even he's starting to get tired of it. He kind of wants to leave her. He wants to be with someone normal that doesn't have all this baggage. But she is pregnant and he is having a kid with her, so he kind of wants to power through it. But he doesn't believe all these lies. He thinks she is kind of mentally ill. Goes to the bathroom, washes his face. In the mirror, the Mad Hatter shows up, and he says, "Congratulations! Hello, Brandon. Long time no see." He recognizes who this is. He knows his girlfriend's younger brother.
It's Johnny. It can't be. This can't be real.
And Johnny says, "But it is. Sucks, don't it? Everything my big sister said was true. But you wouldn't listen, would you? Now it's too late, Brandon." He starts choking Brandon and dragging him in through the mirror, I guess, into Wonderland. And he leaves this. He actually doesn't say that he's killing himself. He's just saying he's leaving her. So when she sees this letter, she's distraught. He was the only constant, the only thing in her life that she could kind of count on. She goes back to work, talking to Ramney about her boss, about how her boyfriend dumped her. And in the background here, you see the Mad Hatter again. So now we know that this Mad Hatter is her brother, Johnny. He came back into the real world, and who knows how long he had been in Wonderland. But it obviously did a number on him, and now he's a psychopath. She is now at her friend Melody's house, telling her how Brandon broke up with her, and Melody's like,
Stay here, fuck him, to hope his dick falls off.
Stay here as long as you want to, you shouldn't be by yourself right now. And we take a look at the outside of the apartment. It's raining outside. Johnny, aka Mad Hatter, aka her brother, standing in the rain outside, looking at the apartment, knowing she's in there and looking through one of the windows, right? And you see, as it's raining, you see there's another creature with him, and it turns out it's that monster that her mom turned into in that nightmare, that the one that seems to be controlling Johnny. And we cut back to Wonderland, and we see how he was dragging Brandon through Wonderland, telling him how he's fucked and he's stuck here. And that monster that's controlling him comes out of the ground, and all these weird lizards come out, and they're all going through his skin and going into Brandon's body. So he kind of turns into a corpse, and they take the skin they hang it up like a scarecrow, and they leave the dead body rotting there in the floor. He says, "You should have believed her, Brandon. You should have listened while you had the chance." And that's kind of what he has to say about that. And he goes back to the real world again to follow Calie. Next day, Callie's back at work, and they're throwing her a baby shower. So they're like, "Oh, you needed some cheering up. Things happen. Your boyfriend left you, and so forth." So all her co-workers are kind of like her family at this point. She really has like not a lot of other people she talks to, because she constantly moves, because she wants to she doesn't want to be like a sitting duck, because she still feels like someone's following her, so she's always moving around. And she noticed one of these presents, it says to Calie, when she has changed her name to Lacey. So she's like, who would call me Calie, right? So that was like a red flag. She calls her friend Melody, lets her know, hey,
there's a comic convention in town, so our restaurant is like full, so I'm gonna have to stay over time.
As Melody hangs up the phone, Johnny's inside the apartment already. He says, "I believe you know my sister." And then she says,
Stay the fuck away from me, you.
And then he says, I'm not the one you should be worried about. So the Cheshire cat shows up and just mauls her, shreds her up. So when Calie gets back home, the ambulance is there, the cops, they're dragging out the dead body. That's the end of issue 2. Okay, so now in the start of the next issue, Calie is in the restroom and she has a card of the Queen of Hearts and she has a razor blade. So she's trying to figure out what does this mean, and she's kind of considering suicide because all her friends are getting killed, right? And her roommate just died, and she's like looking at the razor blade. She saves it for later. So very eerie moment. You know, suicide is always like a taboo subject and it's just uncomfortable. We jump to the next scene and we're here in the Statue of Liberty. So we're still in New York. We zoom in, go inside the Statue of Liberty. We have the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire cat, and everybody else is brutally murdered. So what are they doing in this Statue of Liberty? Whatever they're doing, they're having a conversation, Mad Hatter and the Cheshire cat. So they have a differences of opinion. So they start going at it. There's a clash of the titans here. And when they're going at it, Mad Hatter takes out this special knife he's holding, and he goes, just remember who's the boss. And it's not you, Cheshire cat. It's me. And he holds the knife. The cat calms down and realizes Mad Hatter is the big bad, not the Cheshire. So this was an interesting scene because these two powerhouses went at it. They've been rolling together for a while now, and we get to see the totem pole. So it's been clearly established that the Mad Hatter is the big bad and the Cheshire cat falls under him. And then someone falls above the Mad Hatter as well. And as the story goes, I'm pretty sure we'll get the totem pole where everybody lands, right? Now in the next issue, it's explaining to us the backstory of Johnny, Calie's brother. When she threw him through the window in the previous story arc, he went to Wonderland, and they never explained anything else except that he came back now as an adult. And here now we're explaining to him he's having like a flashback, and he almost feels like traumatized and at the same time angry. And he's remembering, and to us, the reader, it's showing us what happened there. He went to Wonderland, and it shows his struggles and all the stuff he went through over there. He was by himself, scared, in a strange world where nothing made sense, and he had to just figure things out on his own. And it was very traumatizing, and it made him a very bad guy. He had a lot of pent-up anger inside him. So the previous Mad Hatter, before he became the Mad Hatter, he met him, and that Mad Hatter knocked him upside his head, knocked him out, chained him up in a dungeon. Now in this dungeon, his mom was there, but a young version of her, because it all started with her. She was Alice in Wonderland. She was in this place, and now it's a vicious cycle where there's like two of her. One stayed in Wonderland, and like another body of hers, an embodiment, went to the real world. So there was two of her, and the one in the real world, when she came back not right. She was going insane, and she suicided herself. But the other part of her that stayed in Wonderland is tied up in this dungeon, and her son is there, and he's like, oh, we're both tied up here. And he's tripping out that his mom is here, and he sees the Mad Hatter is the one that has her shackled up. So he escapes these shackles and kills the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter was explaining to him how he let him escape the shackles on purpose, but so that he could kill Alice, not him. And he flipped the game upside down. He kills the mom, but he also kills the Mad Hatter. So that's kind of how he became the new, younger Mad Hatter. In this place, once he killed the previous Mad Hatter, he killed him with this knife, which is the knife he pulled out on the Cheshire cat, and it made the Cheshire cat back off real quick. So this is a very powerful knife. Not a lot is explained to us about it at this moment. It just explains to us that that's how he became the new Mad Hatter. Now back in the real world, Calie meets this guy that says he's her grandpa. She doesn't believe him, but the more he talks about Wonderland, the more she starts believing. She's like, he knows too much. Like he knows about what's going on, and he could explain to me what I'm going through. So he lets her know, look, you were told to do sacrifices, so you sacrificed your brother to stop the madness from Wonderland spilling over into the real world. So it turns out that was a straight lie. So when you do a sacrifice, all you're doing is feeding Wonderland and feeding the demon there, so that they could eventually have enough strength to come to the real world. So it's not holding them back, it's actually helping them come through the portal. So she was tricked into thinking we have to do these sacrifices, and so were previous generations were also tricked into giving sacrifices. So throughout the years, they've been making this entity stronger. So now it's getting to the point where it's almost strong enough to come over to the real world, and then it's gonna be all bad if that happens. The next day, Calie goes back to work, and that guy that said he was her grandfather, he has been brutally murdered at her diner, and so have been all her co-workers. So everybody she comes in contact with and is friendly with, they all get killed because the Mad Hatter is following her. So whoever she talks to, she's killing everybody in the way there, right? But she picks up this, when she gets there, the Shishai cat, he pops up. He's the one that brutally murdered everyone. She picks up this knife, and it's a great fight scene between her and him, and she actually gets the best of him. She stabs him right in the eye. Once she leaves the diner, she's in the streets, and the Mad Hatter pops up, and he tries to push her through this mirror. So shit's hitting the fan. Everything's going crazy here because it's the last issue. All the action's coming up, and he tries to push her through that mirror. He wasn't able to do it. She fought him off. She picks up this big axe, and I don't even know where the fuck this axe came from. I don't even think it shows here. So anyway, she picked up this big axe and just swung it across his face, swung it across his body, his legs. She just, oh man, it was real brutal. She just beat the shit out of him, carved him up real nice. And he can't really move around or anything. And she's like, I'm not sure if he's dead. So boom, she chops off his head, just to make sure, you know, he's out of the picture. So now that she has killed him, she's somewhat safe, and everybody else is dead, right? Even the Mad Hatter. So we skip forward into the future. Remember, she was pregnant. In the future, 9 months later, now she's having her daughter. Once she has her daughter, the Mad Hatter pops up again, and he tells her, you think we wanted you, Calie? We wanted your daughter the whole time because she's the future. And basically the story arc ends there. It ended very eerie, very creepy. Can't wait to the next story arc. This was really good. This is some really good comics. I highly recommend them if you like horror, if you like slashers. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see more of the same, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way I'll notify you on your feed when the next video goes up. Other than that, I'd like to thank you guys for checking out the video, and I'll check you guys out next time.